afternoon, everybody. How you guys doing? Good. So I'm Steve, and this is Sitka. Sitka is an adult female bald eagle. She came to our center back in 2002, and she was hit by a car in Nanilchik, which is a small village north up on the Kenai Peninsula. And in that collision, she had a lot of damage done to her right side. She has a hole in her patagium, which is the fleshy part of her wing. If she were to stretch out her right wing, you'd see it. It's about the size of a tennis ball. So she could catch that on a branch out in the wild and sever her tendon completely and lose control over her wing. And then she also had to have her hallux removed. It had to be amputated. And that's the backwards facing toe on her right foot. And that was just because she rolled under the car and it got mangled really badly. And that is the main reason that she's unreleasable. She would not be able to catch fish really without that. A normal eagle would catch about one fish in every 10 tries or so. And we've reduced her chances to about 1 in 20, 1 in 25. So she would probably starve without our help. And she has a new job now. Let's get that feather off of there. She has a new job. We do education programs with her. She took about 6 months to train to sit comfortably in front of people like this, which is pretty quick compared to Volta, who's another one of our trained eagles. He took a year, so she took half as long. But that's just a little about her. If you guys have any questions, I can answer those for you. She's a little restless.
How much does she weigh?
Yeah,
How much does she weigh? This is my favorite question. I'll let you guys guess first. What do you guys think she weighs?
14 pounds.
14 pounds, 18 pounds, 10 pounds, 30 pounds. Yeah, so, you know, if she were a mammal, she would easily be about 30 or 40 pounds with her size. But she's very lightweight. She's built for flight. She's mostly fluff. She weighs a whopping 12 pounds. Yeah, so they just have over 7,000 feathers. And if you were to weigh all of her feathers and her bones separate, you'd have more weight in feathers. Their bones are very lightweight. They're nearly hollow, very thin-walled. And she's pretty happy right now. She's getting some good food. That was some king salmon. They ate some good stuff. Anyone else? Her wingspan is about 7 feet, between 7 and 7.5. And the juveniles usually have longer wingspans than the adults, and that's because their flight feathers grow in longer when they're shorter. So they can have up to an 8-foot wingspan even. But hers is pretty large. She's a pretty large eagle. They go between, usually the females are between 10 and 14 pounds. And the males are usually 7 to 10 pounds. So she's pretty large.
How old?
She is 10 years old. She came to us as a 2-year-old, and we're only able to tell how old they are if they come to us as a juvenile. So you guys saw in the flight center some of the dark-headed ones. Those are juveniles. They get the white head after 5 years. So when she got the white head, we knew she was exactly 5. So she's been here for 10 years. She's about she's 12 years old. So she was 2 years old when she came here.
How long do eagles live?
They can live to about 30 or 35 out in the wild. And then in captivity, they actually live longer. Since we have a veterinarian here, if they show any signs of sickness, they get treated. And also, she gets free food every day. So they can live to about 50 in captivity. We can increase their lives by about 15 years. It's pretty amazing.
How fast do they fly?
How fast do they fly? Usually, they're flying at around 35, 40 miles an hour. And then they can dive at up to about 100. Yeah, they can dive really fast. But they don't really dive like that to catch prey. That would be like if they were avoiding something or maneuvering around, fighting with each other and things like that. Yeah.
If you kept feeding her, would she just keep eating?
If I kept feeding her, would she just keep eating? To an extent, she would probably eat about 2 or 3 pounds of food if I were to give it to her right now.
Wow.
We limit their diet to about 1/10 of their body weight. So they do get limited food, and it also varies with their weight too. If she's really skinny, we'll feed her more, and if she's getting a little chunky, then we'll lower it. We don't want them to get too lazy on us. We like to have them moving around a bit, so they're still getting a little exercise. We bring her into the smaller flight tube that you guys saw during the winter, if we don't have any birds in there, so she can get some exercise. She is partially flighted. She does have that hole in her wing, but she can still fly a little bit, so she'll get a little more exercise then. But they don't really fly around as much as we kind of think they do. If you think about it, it just kind of wastes energy for them, and they're very energy efficient. I don't like to call them lazy. I like to call them opportunistic hunters.
How far do they migrate?
How far do they migrate? Well, we're not sure exactly how far they could migrate, but they do more food-induced migrations rather than weather-induced. So we banned all the birds that leave here. So we had one bird that showed up in a banding study in Montana that left here. Yeah, so they can travel pretty far, just to give you an idea of how far they will travel. And they'll even go north in the winter here. There's a late salmon run up in Haines, and a lot of them go up there in like November or so. Oh, this is some wet fish. Yeah.
If she figures out that a show's coming, will she come to you because she knows she gets fed, or do you have to spend some time catching her?
She knows sometimes. I mean, it depends on her mood too. If she wants to come out here, she'll step right up with no problem. But if she's giving me a hard time, she's not having a good day, maybe she'll fly around a little, jump from perch to perch, and I have to kind of catch her. But if she definitely, if she were showing a lot of signs of aggression, if she didn't want to come out, I wouldn't push it at all. I would go and get one of the other two eagles who's glove trained. We don't want to have it be a bad time for her at all. We want this to be positive for her.
We have time for one more question.
For one more, yeah, you?
How do you train the bird to sit, and how do you train the bird to be calm?
To do this?
Yes.
Yeah, how do we train them to be this calm and comfortable? It's a very long process. Basically what you do is you start out there just going in the enclosure. First you have to assess their behavior. In the first place, when they come here, if it's an unreleasable bird, we can decide whether or not, basically right away you can tell if it's going to be able to work with people or not. You sit in the enclosure for a few hours and see if they get comfortable with it, put down pieces of food, and then just walk out. So every day you kind of take a step closer or a half a step closer. And like I said, it's a long process until eventually you can get next to the bird and then start feeding it off of the glove before they step onto the glove. And then eventually, you give them a cue and a bridge word, which we use is good, to get them up onto the glove. And they associate that with a positive experience too. So a lot of times I can just point to my glove and whistle and put it up to her. She'll step up and I say good, and she still is okay with it, even though I don't feed her every time. So yeah, it's a lengthy process though.
All right, well, it's time for us to put these two back in their own respective habitats, at least for now. Everyone can remain seated and hold your applause as they exit the room.
Well, thank you, Charles. And thank you guys for coming today. We wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. And if you would like to see Sitka again, she's on the middle enclosure out front. And she's probably going to be taking a bath because it's nice out, and when she eats, she likes to take a bath after. And if you have any other questions too, I'll be back out here in a couple minutes, and I can help answer those for you. So thank you guys.
Thank you.